Okay, if you're not already, go ahead and go back to the attribute layer. All right, we're going to go over the particle effects system a little bit. All right, so if you're clicked on any of these other tiles, go ahead and click the orange FX tile up here. All right, and these are all the particle effects styles. Okay, so over here on the right, you can see like there's a list, and most of them torch, smoke, red. These are just placeholders for right now. This list will be filled in with the ones that are created later. All right, so you can either find them over here or down here you can hit plus and minus and you can see it allows you to navigate those as well. For now I'm just going to leave it on zero torch because this is like our base default torch. So it's one of the it's like a nice red color and it's got everything set up for it. Alright, so using the Alt key, I already created two different things down here because I want to show you what the speed does real quick. So if you hold the Alt key, alright, it'll allow me, that's what I'm using here just to show you that I can, just to show you the different settings. So the one here on the left is set at 2 times speed, and the one on the right is set at 1 time speed. So let me just go ahead and commit that. Alright, and you can see it basically just changes how fast those flames are being produced and animating on the screen. You can see this one's very very fast, like maybe there'd be wind blowing or something, and then this one's just a normal, regular I'd say regular speed animation at 1 times. All right. Next thing to go over is the scale, right? So the scale is just going to change the display, and I'm sure that you've seen these over here on the left when I committed the map. So these I have set up as like one. I have these set up as this one actually should be one. So let me just change that one real quick. I must have deleted it earlier on accident. So let me just go ahead and make that one 1 time so that way you can see how small it is because it is very tiny. So 1 to 9 here, and then this one is over there is 10. So this is the largest size. So I'm gonna go ahead and commit that so you can see them, right? And you can see that number 1 right below me here is very, very small. So typically most of these you'll be doing in like 3x, 4x, maybe even 5x for like a campfire. Maybe somewhere you'd have like a large bonfire that you might need a 10x. But that's just the basic sizes, and that works for any of the different particle effects. These are like hard coded that would just scale these up. So the next thing to go over is the layer. So typically we want to keep everything into the BG layer, the FG0 layer, and above all as much as possible because those are the cheapest layers to use. You may have a couple campfires or something somewhere where you may want to use the mid layer just so that way a character can walk both in front of the fire and behind it, right? So within the try to keep that to an absolute minimum. Typically, we want to keep everything in BG3, which will display above BG1 and BG2 stuff. And the mid layer, like I said, it's its own special functionality. I think we went over it earlier about how depending on where a character sprite is positioned, it'll either display in front or behind. That's an expensive layer because it just uses a little bit more processing power than other things. FG0 will basically be a layer that is below all of the other FG1 and FG0, right? So if you have a campfire or a small fire that's in amongst a bunch of trees, this fire can still display behind the leaves, basically. All right, and then above all is pretty self-explanatory. That will display above everything else. All right, so I'm just gonna go with BG3 because that's all I need. All right, and I'm gonna use the X mod here, right? I'm gonna go over X mod. So this allows us to move it either plus 64 pixels to the right or minus 64 pixels to the left, right? So let me just place one. So we're going to use the rock here as reference. So I'm just going to place one at minus 64 on the rock and commit it so you can sort of get an idea where it's going to display. All right, and you can just see that it basically skips a whole tile and displays there. And I know it's the big one. I know it's the big one. I figured you wouldn't be able to miss it. I'll just crank that down just a little bit. Maybe 4.5 will be fine. All right, and then I'll show you the Y mod. So let's make the X back to 0, and then the Y mod, we'll take that minus 64 as well. Alright, we'll place the FX tile again. Alright, and you can just see it displaced the animation 64 tiles up. Now, one of the functions of that is just to allow you a little bit more flexibility on where you'll have to experiment with it and obviously find out exactly how many pixels to the left, right, or up, down you will need it. But this allows you to basically place exact particle effects where you're going to need them. So one example would be like, so you see this like little torch here? Well, let's say I wanted to add a tiny little particle effect to the top of that. I could place the tile there and then use X and Y mod to navigate my animation to the perfect spot. So that just gives you a little bit more fine tuning, really, is all that's for. And then Zmod. Zmod is its own sort of special thing. Um, it seems to only really affect, you're only going to really notice it on the mid layer. It seems to be pretty much specifically for that, and it allows you on the mid layer because there's that functionality of being able to display things behind or in front. This will allow you to organize how the particle effect will be displayed in that mid layer, whether it will always display behind the characters but in front of BG1 and 2, or in front of the character but behind the tree. So it allows you to get a little bit more fine tuning in the layering on the mid. Like I said, we're going to try to not use mid as much as possible. So any kind of particle effects or any kind of like mapping you can do to keep things as much on BG3 and FG0 as you can would be excellent. All right, so and then the two most these are pretty obvious. This if either one of these are checked, right? If not during the day is checked, it won't display during the day, and if not during the night is checked, it won't display during the night. That is it for particle effects. We'll get more in depth with how to create them and where all of this is stored later on in the editor. I might do a like a particle creation, like we might make our own effects later on, but that'll be down the road.